Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another continuing education check in. Today, we're switching it up a little bit and we're talking about marriage and how to prepare for that well. And we're talking about prenups. And
Hmm.
so, we're going to start off by talking about what it is, what are our personal views on it, and try to figure out like the pros and cons and what we think is a good way to start thinking about prenups and how that affects marriages.
Hmm.
And then stay tuned for the end because we're bringing back Toxicology report. And so I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Uh, Sania and I don't know how close we are to thinking about prenups. And so
Hmm.
I think it's going to be, it's still like a good time to discuss. And I would
Hmm.
love to hear what you think about it, Sania.
Yeah. I saw this topic that you picked, Ethan, and I got immediately so excited. I have talked, I think there was like a phase in time when like all the, major sports celebrities and athletes were like talking about prenups and this and that. So like it just made it come up in like my friend groups and like I was arguing with a lot of people about it. And I can kind of see both sides of it because, I have a brother and like he's on one side of it, but as a girl, I'm on another side of it. So I can see all of it. I'm just very excited about this topic. Maybe all this to say, like maybe I don't even know what a prenup like actually is and all it's like at its core. But Ethan, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Is a prenup just like something that you sign before or like when you're getting married that says any, wealth that you gain post marriage will stay your own, even if you end up getting a divorce? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to sum it up. And
Okay.
so it's a legal document, and
Mm-hmm.
so yes, like in the end, you can sign it if you have a lawyer write it up for you. But
Mm-hmm.
you can either go that route where someone writes it up for you and your partner, or you and your partner can write it up yourself. And it kind of depends on what state you're in
Mm-hmm.
and what their requirements are. But a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times you can write it yourself.
Is it still considered legal if you and your partner write it yourself?
I think you need to get it reviewed by someone who
Ah, okay.
understands legal documents.
Mm-hmm.
And so it depends. Like legal
Hmm.
documents need like a signature. It
Mm-hmm.
needs some kind of like format. Like it can't be like verbal
Okay.
or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I think in the end it does need to get reviewed, but it's a legal document. And then uh, yes, you're right. The whole point of it is to iron out and to explicitly uh, explicitly sort out how you divide your wealth in
Okay.
case of a divorce in your marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And so wealth like does not include just money, but it includes like all your assets.
Like investments gaining value and things like that. Does all that count?
Right. And it also includes debt. And so
But
like
debt's negative. Or like, sorry.
yeah. But I guess what I mean is like, let's say I had student loans and then I got married. Uh, if in the prenup I say that my student loans, I'm responsible for them.
Mm-hmm.
If this marriage dissolves, then if we get a divorce, that student debt is back on me. And
Wait, when you're married, sorry to cut you off. When you're actually married, does the student loan become shared?
well, that's up
Because
to
I don't
you,
know about this.
right? It's up to how you guys share finances, and at the end of the day, it needs to get paid off, right?
Right.
Whether it's by you or your partner or together.
I didn't know you can
So,
marry someone and give them your loans.
I mean, technically, you're not doing that, right? But
Mhm.
like the point of marriage is that you become
One.
one person. You're
Oh,
one unit. You're one
okay.
family unit now.
Maybe we're going
So
to have to come back to this topic, Ethan. I don't know about all the legal nuances of a marriage. Like, I know today we're
okay,
focusing on prenup, but like, I didn't know like one unit in the eyes of like the law means so many things.
yeah, it does, and I think that's why a lot of people are such big proponents of prenups because they want to just make sure that in the case that the marriage doesn't work out, that no one is going to be um, saying you're responsible for things that you don't want to be responsible for, or
Mm-hmm.
that your assets, like your stocks or the car that you had when you were single, or
Mm-hmm.
um, like your salary, like part of that is tied to your ex partner.
Mm.
So when I was doing some research about that, like it's not only your assets, but it can affect your debt, and then it can also affect like your children from a previous marriage or something. And let's say like the amount of money you want to give to them, or the amount of money that you've set aside for them
Mm-hmm.
in like a educational investment account or like a trust fund, like that stuff can be affected too when you're in
Wow.
a divorce. So
Okay. Hmm.
a prenup, there's no like template per se. Like
Mm-hmm.
you guys write that either with a lawyer or not to make a decision on how
Hmm.
all of those will be split and where the responsibility goes.
Wow. So it primarily does focus on like financial like aspects, like personal finances,
Yep.
and then what the combined finances, and then what happens in the potential of if you separate.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And so I think one of the main points of this episode that I'm realizing is that, okay, I personally am I would not do a prenup if I got married. And
Wow. Okay.
but I think that the main point of this episode is that you should be having these financial conversations with your partner before you get married. And
Mm.
so like for me, I would not have a written prenup agreement, but it's important to me to be on the same page with my
Mm.
partner going into a marriage, so that like we understand like how we're going to do our bank accounts. Are we going to have a
Okay.
joint bank account,
Right.
separate bank accounts?
Mm-hmm.
What's going to happen to our investments? What is going to happen if one person is in debt? How are we going to think about big picture
Mm-hmm.
purchases like a
Mm-hmm.
house or a new car? Like,
Mm-hmm.
are we splitting 50-50? Is that just coming out of our joint bank account? Like all of those need to be sorted away,
Mm-hmm.
because at the end of the day, whether or not like you support a divorce or you don't, um, it's you want to just always be on the same page when it comes to money, so that one person does not get blindsided or
Mm-hmm.
frustrated or left in
Mm-hmm.
the dark.
Okay. My previous conversations that I've had about prenups were not so much about this. I think the way that I'd previously talked to people about it. So I was with one of my guy friends from school, and we were just discussing what was going on, and he talked about prenups, and I was like, oh, as a girl, like I took a stand like as a woman, and I was like, as a girl, I'm not for prenups. That's why I was pretty surprised when you said that you are for prenups. Well, because
Well,
as a girl,
I'm
or
not
sorry,
for.
you're not for. Yes, but you're a
Don't say
guy.
it to me like that, Sonia.
But you're a guy. So as a woman, I was telling him that I was against or like not for prenups. And the reason I said that was because like being a traditional girl, like, you talked a lot about finances and debt, but you didn't talk about like, okay, what happens when you get married and either when you have kids or maybe when you don't have kids, like, and your wife does not want to work. And so she is not contributing anything to that joint account. Like my mom works. She's always wanted to work, but like traditionally, like back home, like aunts, like they have a joint account, but like they just always get whatever they want, but like they're not contributing to add assets. That house that they're buying, it's not 50-50. So, at the end of the day, if for a traditional woman who wants to stay at home for maybe a period of time, forever, like whatever time that you guys agree on, when or if there is a divorce, I think if there's a prenup, like then the woman gets like severely screwed over because here she was investing all of her time, all of her energy, all of her effort into the marriage, into the home. Like I think I've seen videos of people being like, like if you didn't have a wife to like take care of, like, let's say house things, and I'm talking again just about traditional households, like you would have to pay a maid like so much money. Like if you put that much money in like a separate account for your wife who's doing all of those things, like she wouldn't need a like she wouldn't be afraid of the prenup. But if you're like not financially taking care, like adding to her like personal finances, and you, let's say, do have a prenup, at the end of the marriage, or at the end, if you get a divorce, she's left older. She's left with like absolutely no like capital gain at all. And now she's alone. And now she has to figure everything out. And that's like hard. So I feel like for traditional women, like they should be super anti prenup.
That's interesting because and I hear where you're coming from, and it makes sense. And I guess what I'm thinking about at this moment is like if if there is no prenup, then what happens is that if there is a divorce, the court decides how you split all your assets.
I thought it's 50-50. You get 50% of what he has.
So like people say that, and but it's impossible to split like everything 50-50, right? So the court is going to decide, and a lot of times like that is probably the goal, to split 50-50.
Okay.
But other people are deciding for you,
Mm-hmm.
and it might be 50-50, it might not be.
Okay.
And I think that's why a lot of people gravitate towards a prenup, so that they themselves can define um, what they get. The thing is,
Oh.
though, that I want to like if we take your argument, Sanya, and then we take it a step further.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that you're a traditional girl and um, you want to be set up well if the marriage
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work out well,
Right.
because you've invested all your time and energy into this family, and
Mm-hmm.
it would be really hard for you to get back on your feet, find a job, start over from scratch if the marriage didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you are with a guy who is not traditional, and
Mm-hmm.
let's say this guy wants to protect his own money, and he's like, if this marriage doesn't work out, I don't want to give you anything. I don't want to give you child support. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to I don't want to give you like um, stock in my own company.
Mm-hmm.
I just, because like we're separated now, like I don't owe anything to you.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess in that case, like some people might make the argument that as a girl, you should still ask for a prenup, so that you can make sure that you get um, something guaranteed, or like you can
Mm-hmm.
pick what you get, so that the court doesn't give it to you later. But then
Mm-hmm.
also, um, it's like an opportunity to figure out if the guy who is less traditional is willing to
Mm-hmm.
um, sacrifice for you and make sure that you're set up well
Mm-hmm.
by doing a prenup, so that you get some guarantees even before going into the marriage.
Ethan, this is like very mind blowing right now, what you're saying. I think being a very like social media girly, like I've just heard prenup as like bad word. I've heard like prenup is what they do to keep their assets and not give you anything. I didn't, again, what I was saying at the start, I don't think I knew exactly what a prenup was. And I didn't know that you can also use it to just like define things that you will guaranteed be getting. So I guess what you're saying, and it sounds like you've done your research more than me, that if you just have like a marriage and if it ends, then the courts will end up deciding and there'll be arbitration of some sort. We've all seen it in the movies of like what happens to all the assets, who gets what. And then the alternative option is you discuss this before you even end up in that situation, and you decide, hey, we want to get, like, let's say I want to be a career woman. And I'm like, no, you're going to have to hire a nanny because like I'm going to keep working, blah, blah, blah. Um, and you get to decide like, oh, actually after like, if this marriage doesn't work out, I want to keep what I have. Like you keep what you have. I don't want to give you anything. And that's also an option.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, one thing that I want to point out is that for some people, they think that if they have a prenup, it'll make all the legal stuff after divorce be much easier.
Right.
And in some ways, it can be. I've known people who um, have gone through very bitter divorces because they can't agree on how to
Mm,
split assets,
right.
and the court like is trying to decide, but they're fighting the court and they're saying no, like it can't be this way because this person did XYZ during the marriage and
Right.
they were hoarding all the money. So I need to like
Get it back.
exactly. But I will say like even if you had a prenup, um I think you can't let it take away from how your marriage ended. So if your marriage ended very bitterly, like
Hmm.
your partner can fight the prenup too if they wanted to, and they
Right.
can
Because
say
these are all just.
circumstances have
Hmm.
changed.
Right.
And so I don't think I think legally maybe like on average maybe things are a little easier overall, but I
Mm.
don't think like it's a good excuse to say I want to do this to avoid like legal trouble down the
Hmm.
line.
Okay. Now that I'm kind of starting to understand what a prenup is a little bit more, and not just like it's for the guy to keep his money. I'm starting to think that like a prenup is just you know how you said having that conversation with your partner before, like, oh, what happens if this happens one day? What happens if like, things don't work out? What do you think we should do? What will you want to do? I feel like basically a prenup is that, but in just like legal documents so you can hold your partner accountable. Because like the things that you're verbally agreeing on, like they can do or not do. And like you said, the marriage could end on like a super bitter note, like somebody cheats or something like that happens. Um, so I kind of get that, but I also like because now I'm thinking back to like, wait, why would Ethan not like? Why would he be anti prenup? And I feel like it almost like it kind of puts like a sense of like mistrust. I don't know, like if that's like out of pocket to say, but it just kind of feels like you're like not trusting your partner and you're like bracing for the worst and you're like having all the nitty gritty like horrible like conversations of like, oh, but if we break up and you're cheating on me, I want to take like 100% of whatever you have, or like like some dumb conversations like that.
Yeah, yeah, and I do want to get to that, and so I think this is like one of the biggest points that I want to make is that, and this is the reason why I've been resisting doing this episode for a while, and
Hmm.
actually like one of my friends and one of our viewers has requested us to talk about this, but
Whoa.
I think when I think about this whole idea of prenups, and let me just do one more clarification. We should have done this at the beginning, but prenup stands for prenuptial
Oh yeah.
agreement.
Hmm.
And so it means before you're married, you're making this agreement about how to split assets and debts. You
Hmm.
can also do a postnup where you have this legal document after you're married and you
Hmm.
submit it uh, so that it's on record.
Okay.
The whole idea of like a prenup, postnup, um, it makes me sad because, like you said, it's almost like you're preparing for the worst. And
Hmm.
for me, like I want to go into my marriage prepared and also hopeful for the best. And I'm
Hmm.
not trying to say that if you uh, do a prenup that you are not preparing for the best
Right.
on the other side or hoping for the best.
Hmm.
But I think for me, I don't even want to ever think about the possibility that we're
Hmm.
going to get divorced.
Right.
I'm going to do everything I can in my power before we get married to set
Hmm.
us up well for success.
Right.
So I think the whole point of our podcast is focusing on everything that comes before to
Hmm.
set yourself up well, to make sure that you have been intentional about finding someone who is a good fit for you and dating intentionally and having the right conversations, approaching conflict in the right way, thinking
Hmm.
about your future in a very thoughtful and purposeful way.
Hmm.
And I think that when you date with intention, and you can watch our episode on that, uh, you're not thinking about the possibility of divorce. For
Mm-hmm.
me, I don't want to think about the possibility of divorce. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure people who take the side of signing prenups also do not want to think about the possibility of divorce. No one
Mm-hmm.
does. Um, but I think that there's like kind of two sides to tackling a problem. One
Mm-hmm.
where you are trying to um, put in the work to build a solid foundation so that
Mm-hmm.
when troubling times come and issues in the relationship come, you already have the tools set up to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
The other way to deal with the problem is making sure that you have a way to deal with it later, and you have like tools set up on the side
Mm-hmm.
to address something when it comes up.
It kind of sounds like you're saying like the two ways are like, the first one is like you're internally figuring out how you're both going to deal with this problem. You keep it between you and you move forward. And then the other way is taking on more of like, we bring in third parties, we bring in arbitrators and legalese to like help us solve a problem that is between us.
Yeah, like one way to sum it up well um, is making sure that your relationship is rock solid and
Mm-hmm.
that you're always on the same page, that if it ever comes to that point, your separation is mutual and
Mm-hmm.
amicable.
Mm-hmm.
I in general, like I think divorce should only be saved for very specific scenarios, um and in those scenarios it's not amicable, and there's something that went seriously wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's one side, for the goal to be to build your relationship up so strong that you will always be on the same page versus damage control. And
Right.
so I think a prenup, to me, you can put it however way you like, right? Like this is just a legal thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not one person just trying to look out for themselves and you're just trying to define uh,
Mm-hmm.
things well. But at the end of the day, it's damage control, and you're
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to prepare for the worst case scenario.
Um, I'm just going to say people out there should make note of today's date because this is the first time Sonia is disagreeing with Ethan. I thought I was against prenups, but now that I know what a prenup is, I've I see what you're saying and I totally get it. And I will also be on here and very openly admit, like, I tend to have a very like I don't want to say like a negativity bias, but like in some ways, like, like always bracing for the worst or preparing for the worst. But I do think like, growing up, my dad always had like a go bag ready in case of like natural disasters that had passports, this, that, flashlights, candles, whatever. So, in some way, being like the nerdy student that I am that overstudies for exams, that does this and that, it almost feels like a prenup is just you being prepared. It's hopefully something you never ever have to use, right? But it feels like, with how you're explaining it, it feels like a discussion between you and your partner when you guys are both, and like you said, you don't have to even bring the lawyers in at the beginning in some states. Like you can kind of do it yourself and then get it legalized. And like, yeah, I see the doubt and my brain can think of the other side and it's like, yeah, but like, why don't we just keep it between us? Why do we have to get the lawyers in? And the reason for that is like, even though your partner is the best and you're practicing all the great strategies, like I think it is impossible to say that you're always going to be on the same page. There will be disagreements, but it's just like my mind can see a potential of like, oh, it'll never get to that level of like horrible divorce, like, a really bad breakup or a really bad divorce. You're assuming the best in them. You're saying we can work through almost anything, but it's like that tiny, like, let's say 0.05% potential of like, what if it is just really bad? And now you don't even want to talk to them. You don't even want to see them. And this just kind of makes it like easier. Just not even, and like you said, you can argue your prenup. So like it doesn't do a lot, but at least you have something to fall back on
Yeah,
when the emotions are running high. It could also be thought of as like a tool when the emotions are running high and if things are going bad.
yeah. Okay, so I totally hear you, and most people are going to take your side, Sonia. Like, I'm going to get a lot of heat for not taking your side right now.
Mhm.
And I'm going to boil this down to three options. Okay,
Okay.
so the first way is that you're not prepared.
Right.
So you marry someone that you don't fully know, and you go through things that are really hard on the two of you, and you get a divorce, and
Hmm.
boom, like there was no prenup, you're not prepared. Now all of a sudden you have to go through all this like legal battle and
Right.
strife. You don't
Hmm.
want to talk to the other person, but you're forced to in order
Hmm.
to settle assets. You're not
Hmm.
prepared,
Hmm.
and it's going to add a lot of mental burden on you.
Hmm.
The second way, which is the way that I'm proposing, is that you go into a marriage and a relationship super intentionally,
Right.
so that not that nothing in your marriage or your relationship will catch you off guard, but you have developed and are prepared with all the tools that you need to
Hmm.
handle a hard marriage or the ups and downs in a
Okay.
relationship.
Hmm.
The third way is to do a prenup, and in that way, you are also prepared
Hmm.
because you have this agreement set in
Hmm.
place on how everything is split
Hmm.
after the marriage is over.
Hmm.
The way that I'm proposing, you are still prepared. And so I'm going to give an analogy, and it's not going to be perfect. Analogies are never perfect, so no one flame me in the comments. But let's say that you are pruning a tree,
Hmm.
and this is a beautiful tree that's in your backyard. This tree is like your marriage.
Hmm.
The tree, like in a marriage, like nothing is always sunshine and rainbows. You have to
Right.
put in the work to prune the tree, to
Hmm.
take care of it so that it bears fruit.
Hmm.
But over time, like over the years and years, it's going to get bigger. Maybe the branches are like extending so far out that it's hitting your house. It's getting
Hmm.
in the way of uh, other things in your backyard, the other trees nearby. So
Hmm.
you have to prune it. And so the method that I'm talking about in approaching a marriage or a relationship is not to go in unprepared.
Hmm.
Instead, you would have the pruning shears that you need. You would have done the work yourself along the way so that you know how to prune the tree
Hmm.
properly as the years go on.
Okay.
And then you would have like all the tools to take care of this tree well that you
Hmm.
have accumulated over the years and that you have ready to use.
Hmm.
The way that I view a prenup is instead of focusing on collecting the tools and learning how to care for the tree well over the years, instead you have a chainsaw ready on the side so
Hmm.
that like if crap hits the fan and it's just not working out anymore, you cut the tree down with the chainsaw so it stops bothering your house or the neighboring trees or just
Hmm.
you.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying a chainsaw is a bad thing, right? At the end of the day, a chainsaw is just another tool. And
Hmm.
it is like your way out to make
Okay.
sure that things end cleanly.
Hmm.
What I'm saying is the alternative that I want is the pruning the tree, accumulating the right tools over the years.
Hmm.
Because things are gonna get tough. That tree is gonna go through some ups and downs, but you have the shears. You have picked the fruit at the right time. You have like the right watering system,
Hmm.
so that you're feeding it properly, so that the marriage flourishes, and you don't even ever have to think about a chainsaw. So
Hmm.
some people are gonna hear this story. They're gonna say, "Well, why can't you just do both and
Hmm.
accumulate the tools over the years and
Yeah,
care
that's
for
what I
the
was
tree
thinking.
well, but you have the chainsaw on the side?"
Yeah.
Why would I ever have a chainsaw on the side if my goal is to have a beautiful tree? Having the chainsaw on the side means that there's a chance that the tree must
I
come
kind of
down.
see what you're saying. It makes people. It's a good example, Ethan. It's not bad. I see what you. It's like I think another way that I would look at it. Like again, I was raised very, very, very spoiled, and like whenever I was made to try like a new vegetable or a new kind of fish or whatever it was, my dad would always have a pizza. Like he'd always have like speed dial. He'd be like, I'll order pizza if you don't like it. But me, knowing that I can get the pizza, which is the easier option, I'm 26 years old and I am still such a picky eater because I knew I had that thing to fall back on. So I see what you're saying. Like having the chainsaw on the side is like having the pizza. You don't ever fully get to go through the thing and like put in your best effort because you have an easy way out. And like, I know we've been talking about this for a little bit, and I guess just like the last little thought that I have to share on it is just that I think religious things also have like a part to play in like prenups. And again, I have not talked to my parents about marriage or divorce. Like, well, I've talked, but I watched this in like a TV show and I don't know if it's real. So like, I hope people don't hate me for it, but I kind of like, I don't know if this relates, but I'm just going to say it. So there was like a TV show that I was watching and it was like a Muslim, whatever, dating, marriage, whatever TV show I was watching with my uncle. And apparently the process for when you're married in Islam to break up, you cannot just get the chainsaw. The rule, the official way to do it is you have to break up 3 times. And between each of those 3 times, when you look at your partner face to face and tell them I need to break up with you, there has to be like a month's time between it. Obviously, the rules are like different between like if it was like toxic and if they were hurting you and this and that. And like, I'm not the most educated person on this. Again, don't know enough about marriage to even be thinking about the divorce part yet. But I feel like that rule that they have in place is sort of like you said, it's like it's giving you a chance to use your tools. It's saying before you go to the courts, before you tell people to come break the down, it's saying you have this time, you have basically 3 months time, you have 90 days. And it gives you a chance at the end of each of those 30 days to decide, like, do I still want to break up? Do I still want to end things? Or do I have a tool in my tool chest that I've been building over the years before I was married, while I was married, that we can fix this and we can see a way out? It's just like I'm starting to see that a prenup is just a little bit more harsh. It's a little more sudden. And like all of those things could be good for people. And I guess for certain situations, like I said, if it's like a super scary situation, you need to like cut it clean and get a clean break. I can understand that. But I don't know, maybe you're convincing me now. I'm like, I don't know where I stand on prenups.
It's really hard. I like, even for me, when I was first learning about this, like there was a lot of back and forth in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one thing that I want to make clear, and I think I feel okay to speak on behalf of both of us, is that whether you have a prenup or you don't, it doesn't say anything about you or the person
Mm-hmm.
that you are or anything about your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is your choice to make between you and your partner.
Mm-hmm.
And I would never judge.
Mm-hmm.
I also do want to say that, like, yes, like I would never do a prenup for myself, but that doesn't mean that like if you're ever in a hard marriage,
Mm-hmm.
that you should just like put up with things
Right.
because, like, I don't know, for XYZ, like either
Right.
because like you have a prenup or
Mm-hmm.
or if you're in like a bad situation, you're being abused, like get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
I think like we both stand pretty firm on that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do think like in general, like our podcast is geared towards giving you guys the right tools in your toolbox over the course
Right.
of the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Something like this at the end of the day is your choice and
Right.
how
Mm-hmm.
you want to take the next step in your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, like I don't want the like thought of pizza to like affect how I approach my relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the end of the day, it's like it's my personal view, definitely
Mm-hmm.
shaped by my faith, but
Yeah.
and like how I view marriage.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to make that clear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ethan, that was like a very, very good summary. I feel like that's very well put. We're not here to shame people for having one decision or the other. I think if you guys watch this episode, like in the beginning, I was saying one thing and then in the middle it changed. And now here I am. And I'm like, I need to do more research and figure out what I want, you know? And I think that's totally okay. And we support people at all, everywhere in the spectrum, wherever they fall. So.
Definitely. Does it feel like a big shift to go into a toxicology report?
I don't know. I feel like I can try to like see it fits.
Cool. So let us know what you guys think, as always, in the comments. I thought that this was a good topic to talk about, and that we would get some good opinions.
I learned a lot. Like what a prenup actually is.
Me too. We came up with a good analogy too. I think. And so now we're going to do our end segment. And how this works is we have 3 different scenarios again. And Sania and I are going to rate 1 to 10 how toxic the person is being. And so the first situation is your partner gives you space when you say that you're not mad. How toxic are they being?
For giving you the space.
Yeah. When you said that you're not mad.
Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, wow.
I was going to be a 0, but I was like, oh.
So I thought about 0. And I actually thought I didn't know if you would disagree or not.
I know. I thought you were going to throw up 2 hands.
2 hands.
I just didn't know. I didn't know what to expect. I think it is toxic for the person who is mad to not express that they are mad and they would like their partner to come to them and help them feel better or help them resolve whatever is upsetting them. They're the toxic one. The partner respecting you when you're communicating a need and you're saying, hey, I would like space. I'm okay. I'm not mad. They're believing what you're saying. They're trusting you. They're believing what you're saying. They're giving you the space that you're asking for. Like I gave them a 1 because I was like, maybe they can try a little bit. And, if they know you, they can try to reach and be like, are you sure you don't have something you want to talk about? Like maybe not give up right away. But at the end of the day, they're not toxic at all. What were you thinking?
I was thinking along similar lines. I went to a 2 because I also think that they can try a little bit. And I think that if you just give up right away, it's like not the best.
Yeah.
But also in that situation, let's say I was dating someone and she's like, I'm not mad. I can't just assume that she not being mad means that I should just give her space. Because she actually did not explicitly say, I'm not mad. Give me some space, though.
I see what you're saying.
I think it's still on me to say, do you want some space right now?
Oh, yeah. Or like, what do you need?
Yeah. And how can I best support you?
Right.
And I think in general in relationships, there is this like, I don't know, stigma and like this like pattern that like when girls say that they're not mad, they're actually mad, and a lot of times they want you to be right there with them.
I will just comment on this really quickly. I had a situation where a friend, it was a day that I was like feeling kind of sick. My throat was hurting, similar, Ethan, to how maybe you're feeling right now. And I was just a little, I was just a little quieter than I usually am. And like, we were just making dinner. We were going to watch TV. And this friend's like, before we started TV, he was like, are you mad? And I was like, no, let's just watch. Like, express myself clearly. And he kept pausing the freaking show. And he was like, no, but you can tell me, like, just tell me what's wrong. Why are you mad? And him asking that continuously made me mad.
Yeah.
So sometimes, if they say once, twice, like, no, I swear I'm okay. Like, and you know them best. They're your partner and like they're acting normal. Like, either you should believe it. Maybe they're not ready to share why they're mad yet, and that's where you're sensing something's off, but they're not saying anything. Or maybe they're just not mad.
Wow. Yeah. So guys, I'm going to give you some good advice out there. Sania, you can say if it's actually good advice, but I think it is. Wait for a time when they are not mad. Like, let's say you're at a good spot in your relationship, you're
Mm-hmm.
doing a check-in, you're just having like a conversation about how you guys are doing. You
Mm-hmm.
can ask them then, like, if you say that you're not mad, do you want me to keep asking? Do you
Mm,
actually want me to give you space? And then for that like situation when they're actually saying they're not mad, because in that moment you don't want to be doing like the figuring out in the moment.
right, right. Very good
You,
advice, Ethan.
thanks.
My therapist gave me this advice too. She's like, if you want him to talk to you when you're upset, you need to tell him that that is what you want. And obviously, you can't do it in the moment when you're upset, but you let him know before. Because, like, yeah, it is your job to teach your partner about your needs and the things that you want.
Exactly. And
Hmm.
this goes like whether you're a guy or you're a girl,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
you know what you want when things are rocky and there's tension. So it's up to you to ask, but also to
Hmm.
communicate for yourself like
Right.
how you want to be treated. And
Hmm.
you can't make someone else guess because everyone is different.
Totally.
Cool. Okay. The next situation, they don't want you hanging out with friends of the other sex. This is a tough one.
Hmm. Okay. Have you come up with something?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Three, two, one.
You're at a 7, I'm at a 9.
Okay, Ethan, you want to start us off? A nine.
Yeah, so I think that every relationship at the core, everyone wants it to be based on trust. And
Hmm.
I get it. There's sometimes when like your partner has not shown that they're trustworthy. And that's
Hmm.
why I knocked it down from a 10 because
Okay.
let's say like you have suspicions that they've
Right.
been unfaithful in the past and like you want to protect yourself.
Hmm.
In those situations or in every situation, like in an ideal world, you would like your partner to hang out with whoever they want to hang out with,
Hmm.
knowing that at the end of every day, they're coming home to you and that
Hmm.
you are their priority. You are the person that they love most. You are their best friend.
Hmm.
And I get it. Like sometimes, like there's struggles in your relationship, and that's not the reality always.
Hmm.
Um, but even if they've been unfaithful in the past, like I think it's really dangerous to keep going in your relationship wanting to police them or to
Hmm.
watch over their backs. And so,
Okay.
if you're not ready to trust them to hang
Mm.
out with their friends of the opposite sex, then maybe it's time to take a break from the relationship
Mm.
or really reassess because it points to this relationship is not bringing you enough security.
Hmm.
And so it does come off as a toxic behavior when you try to restrict them in that way.
Right.
I'm not saying it's not called for, but
Right.
like you should protect yourself that you don't even have to feel that in the first place.
Hmm. Right. I really like how you said that, Ethan. So I'm at like a seven. Again, similar line of thinking as you. All I think I want to add is like, if you are feeling insecure or unsafe in your relationship, and like, you get triggered if they're hanging out with girls or like, sorry, the opposite sex, you can just you can either do the toxic thing and like restrict them and control them. And like realistically, I think we all know like that's not going to lead to anything great because like now you're worried, you're making them feel bad. Like a healthier approach, a healthier thing that you can do is like Ethan said, you just take a step back and you reassess like, do I want to be in a relationship where I'm feeling so insecure that I'm feeling like I need to be toxic and controlling like this? So, yeah.
Yeah, well said.
The next one is how toxic are they if they ask to check your phone or if they do check your phone? Either like they have the intention, the desire to, they want your password, whatever it is.
Oh, this is tough, Sonia. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. Three, two, one.
You're at an 8, I'm at a 7. Okay, we're
Okay.
actually agreeing a lot.
Yeah. Why don't you start us off, Ethan?
No. I don't want to start that. You start this one.
So I'm up at an 8 because I think it's very similar to the last scenario. You are having a hard time trusting your partner. You are feeling insecure and unsafe in the relationship. You clearly want some reassurance, and you feel like the best way to look for it is to look in their phone, and like that's the only thing that's going to reassure you. But it's like, I can understand why in some situations, like maybe it feels like you need that to build back some trust that was lost or something like that. But at the end of the day, maybe like maybe it's not the right relationship for you, if you're wanting to do those things. And like maybe you're not feeling safe and secure, and like the healthier thing to do would be to step away again. Because it's like an invasion of their privacy. Like maybe they have, their private notes app where they're talking about their thoughts and feelings that have nothing to do with you. Maybe they have like ugly selfies that they like to take to send to their doctor. Like you don't know what they have on their phone just because they're your partner, they're your husband, wife. Like you do not have like unlimited 100% access to like the depths and corners of their mind, And I feel like asking for their phone is an invasion of their privacy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that, like, maybe once you're married, then the privacy thing is not as big of an argument because you're sharing everything together
like
anyways.
I mean, even then, like I feel like, like my parents have each other's phone passwords. Like I think it'd be toxic if you asked for their phone and they were like, no, I can't. At some point, like you said, at the level of marriage, like then they're being toxic. It's like, what are you hiding? But I think it should just be like, oh, we have this information for each other, but your intention is what makes it toxic. If I'm taking your phone and I'm digging in and like trying to find something like incriminating, that's me being toxic because I'm having insecurities and I'm trying to project those, or I'm trying to like find evidence to support them.
Okay, so the reason why I gave it a 7, and you're changing my mind right now, was I was thinking about the specific situation where your partner starts acting funny, and you're worried that something's going on. And I'm not talking about like they're cheating on you. I'm talking also about like maybe they have like a secret drug addiction or like
Right,
porn
yeah.
addiction that you don't know about.
Sure.
And a lot of times the fastest way to get to the bottom of it is to check their phone. And
Right.
maybe they're talking to their dealer on it, or you look at their browser history. And I guess what you have convinced me on, Sania, is that like the best way forward is always to first have a conversation with your partner, and you should go to them first and
Right.
express like what you're noticing, and have them explain to you like what is going on instead of trying to go behind their back and
Right.
look at their phone. And even like it doesn't have to be behind their back.
Yeah, even if you ask them for it.
Exactly. Or like,
Yeah.
let's say their phone was just lying out and you know their password. Like that's very intrusive. It doesn't mean that they wouldn't be okay with it.
Yeah.
You should
It
always
just
talk to them 1st.
it shows that, like you said, it's intrusive, and it shows that you're being not trusting, which is like all negative behaviors in a relationship.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Well, I had a great time on that episode. Lots of tough things to talk through,
Yeah.
but I thought that was great. Let us know what you guys think down below, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.